Hello, so great to see you. Hello, Amy. Hello, Melissa. Hello, Shelly. Hello, Jackie. I am so super passionate about the topic of our fifth chakra today, which is all about expressing the inner child. I feel that the inner child in all of us is an essence that we have to parent for the rest of our lives, especially as adults. And I feel that we all, and I'm saying all as a collective with no blaming whatsoever, have been mistreated, misguided as children. Um, and with all the blessings to our parents, they did the best they could, but the circumstances, the patriarchal paradigm that we all grew upon, bred upon, and their coping mechanisms, they just did not have the awareness what it means to raise a child. And so what happened is that so many of us have moved from the divine child, have moved from the authentic, pure essence of who we are, because we needed to fit in, we needed to feel belong, we needed to feel loved and accepted. And for many of us, it was not unconditional. It was very much dependent on the way we behave, our achievements, how well we fitted into the setup of our community, of our family, of our religion, whatever the case may be. And so we had this split between the divine child and the wounded child. And we really want to close that gap. We want to bring the wounded child back into its original state as a divine child. And no one else can do it for us, only ourselves. So with that said, I welcome you for tonight. Well, today, for some of you, it's day. For some of us, it's night. And I just want to start by inviting you to close your eyes for the moment and really tap into your body. Call all of yourself, all of your parts back into the body right here, right now. And take deep belly, womb breaths. Inhale into your womb and exhale out of your heart. And do that a couple of times. Start feeling relaxation. Ground yourself. Send your intentional roots out of your body, out of the soles of your feet into Mother Earth. Feeling her support, her guidance, her nurturing. And really inhaling her energy into your body, into your sacred womb. And I want to invite you to also call in the masculine energy from the sun with your inhalation. Call that energy down, pour it down through your crown chakra, through your throat, through your mind, right into your sacred womb to meet with the feminine energy of the earth. And these two opposed energies are divinely connected, so very different and so supporting of each other. And keep breathing into that meeting place of your inner masculine and your inner feminine. Your sacred womb of creation, where all life comes from. The incubator of the divine child. And I want to invite you to have a memory of your inner child. It might be a photo that comes up, a moment in time, and just notice how old is your child. And just make that connection. Perhaps that child wants to say something, so be attentive. Maybe that child has a message for you today. And maybe you can see the child in a different age, different stage of development. And just accept whatever comes up. Whatever feelings surfacing, it's all great. And this child is so dependent on you today. It lives inside of you forevermore. And while I will invite you to just now come out of this space, know that you can always come to that place of connection. This is your space, and you can always return there. And maybe you want to say something to the child. And as you take a couple of more deep breaths, with gentleness and kindness, I invite you to slowly open your eyes. So welcome again. And the inner child, it's an essence that we hold within ourselves from the moment of conception up until now. And that includes the child in all the different stages of development and growth, which varies and changes in terms of needs, in terms of relationships, in terms of how we express ourselves in the world. And so I wrote something that really was a download. I have not read it nowhere else, and I've been reading material on self-development and spirituality for over 2.5 decades. And what came through was very profound for me, and I want to share it with you. I shared it in the book. So if you read my book, you know this concept. And we already did a session on the divine feminine, and we did a session on the divine masculine. And I think it's becoming more and more common and common sense even, and accepted that we all, no matter what is our gender, have both energies. We all have the feminine and the masculine, and then the dance between them varies. But what I've been guided is to take it a step further, because it's actually not only those essences, it's also the inner child, which is what I call the Holy Trinity within. And so really our feminine is very established according to our primal relationship with the mother. First and foremost, of course, it's been shaped in many other ways by society and by our family and all the other feminine figures that came across our life. But the most raw model is the mother, and our divine masculine was shaped by our father. But the relationship between the masculine and the feminine was shaped by the relationship of our mother and father. So this is a place to take a deep breath, because for most of us, the relationship between our mother and father was somehow challenging. Am I right to say that? Does anyone else agrees? Right? Yeah. So this is the role model that we wired into our psyche, into our nervous system, into our mind, emotions, and body. And we not only keep replaying it in all the other relationships that we have throughout our life, but this is the inner dynamics that we're dealing with, right? And so having the inner child also that forever lives inside of us, we now have those energies of the feminine and masculine and their relationship to look after that child. And it's really when we understand this dynamic, we can take it a step further into healing when we activate our inner mother and we activate our inner father to look after that child, to make sure that that child gets his needs met, safe, protected, guarded, and then of course accepted, belong, and even celebrated, right? This is the primal needs of each and every child. Beyond the survival needs of food and shelter and clothes, the fundamental needs of each and every child are exactly those: to feel unconditionally loved for who they are without any restrictions on ways of behaving or performing or anything of that, just simply for their existence. And also the primal need to feel belong, accepted, and of course safe and celebrated. And so we as children, because that was so important, we were willing to sacrifice our authenticity, our natural core, to have those other needs met. And many times it was a very big price to pay, because we completely moved from our core. And comes a stage where we might not even know who we are. What are we placed here to do on this earth? What are our gifts that wants to be shared with the world? What are we here to do? Because we are so far removed from that divine child that was born pure and ready to blossom. And so really the way back home, back into our divinity, back into that essence of the divine child, of who we are when we connected to our divinity, is to clear what stands in our way. And that is all the limiting beliefs and the way we moved from our authentic self because of the messages that we got from our primal carers, and then the wider society, teachers, extended family, and so on. And so the work is really not work of doing as much as it's work of undoing, right? So we really here on this journey of healing, which is healing is coming back to our wholeness. It's embodying that divinity that we already are. We don't need to look anywhere for it. We don't need to search for it. And even if we have experienced the most horrendous trauma, we are never really broken. It might be on our periphery, it might be our perception, the story that plays in our head, the unprocessed emotions that comes with the event, but within, in our essence, we are always whole and perfect. And so the work of undoing is really clearing everything that stands in our way to know that, to experience that. And so I want to give you some practical tools so you can take with you to look after your inner child and to heal that relationship between your inner feminine and inner masculine, your inner mother and your inner father, when you do take care of your child. Because oftentimes we have our masculine and our feminine energy collide. They kind of they don't cooperate or coexist in harmony. They might be fighting with each other. And I'll give you an example. Oftentimes we have a very predominant split between our thoughts and between our emotions, right? And I see the thoughts as very much the masculine and the emotions are very much the feminine. And I even hear many times things like, oh, listen to your heart, which is also really just part of the whole picture, because we need both. You know, it's really that meeting place between the feminine and masculine, right? Our masculine is the energy of directing, planning, logical, analytical, thought-driven, linear, quantifiable, right? We can quantify it. And the feminine is the mystery, the intuition and vision, and it's chaotic in nature, it's creativity. And they both important to create life, to create the inner child, and also to look after the inner child, right? Sometimes our heart longs to do something, to experience, to feel something, and the logic says something else, and we get torn in between. And it's really when we come to that meeting place between both that we create harmony. And the split can come also between just those two energies that are so very different in essence, right? They very different, but that's the beauty of them, because when they in a dance, when they in love, then there is that wideness perception of life. And I like to say that the masculine energy is time and the feminine energy is space, and they meet in the now, which is time and space together. And so I want to start by asking you a question. If you can just drop in the chat, I want to ask you this. I want to ask you about your inner dialogue. Okay, how do you speak to yourself? One being terrible and 10 being amazing. So I would assume that 10 is like how you're going to speak to your best friend. And 1 is really putting yourself down, criticizing, being hard on yourself, being judgmental, right? So this is 1. And then 10 is amazing, supporting, encouraging, like you would support and being in a relationship with your best friend. So I just want to see, where are you in that scale between 1 to 10? And really just a moment to be honest. There's no judgment, there's no good or bad. Just wanna have an overview. So Shelley says 7, 8, right? Anyone else want to type and just to have a broad idea of where do you see yourself in relationship to yourself? Okay, historically 3, presently 6, aiming for 7, 8. Jackie, 3, 4. Okay, so here is the thing. If you're going to speak to your best friend the way you speak to yourself, will she still remain your best friend? And most often the answer is no, right? If you're going to talk to your best friend the way you speak to yourself, she will not stay your best friend. Flory says 6. So, okay, so here's the thing. We are aiming for 9, 10, okay? No compromise. We are aiming for 9, 10. So I want you to really be with me for the next few minutes when I'm going to give you some things to take home and work on them so we can get to that 9, 10. Okay, because this is when it starts. Okay, you are probably still carrying voices from your past. It might be voices of your mother, it might be voices of your father, teachers, siblings, grandparents, society, priest, whatever, right? I want you to be very attentive to the way you speak to yourself all the time. And I want to invite you to bring in more kindness, more compassion for your journey, for all that path that you walked, which I'm sure was filled with bumps and turns and curves and climbing up mountain and jumping over rocks and you name it. Yeah, thorns in your soles of your feet. It's life is a journey. Can we agree on that? It's not an easy ride, right? And pain is inevitable. Pain is there. Pain is there. And most of us have not learned how to deal with pain, right? Even in our society, when pain arrives, we want to suppress it. We want to take painkillers. We want to quick fix it or forget about it or ignore it. Or we have not learned how to deal with pain, with failure. Yeah, failure, because there is no failures, but disappointment, all those feelings that are part of life, right? The negative and the positive, they will always be there. The light and the dark will always be there. The weakness and the strength will always be there. You are humanly perfect as you are, and you are a perfect imperfection, right? You have your strength and your gifts and your beautiful sides, and you have your shadows, and you've got the things that you work on and your wounds and your weaker points, and that's okay. And when you accept yourself where you are and you start treating yourself as that innocent, pure child that lives within yourself, then that's when the shift happens. Okay, and that's why I started with that internal dialogue, because the internal dialogue, you speak to your inner child. This is who you speak to, right? When you talk to yourself, that part of you that receives, it's the inner child. And so imagine a child, okay, a physical child, 2-3 years old, or maybe even younger, a 1-year-old learning how to walk, okay? And you see the child walking a little bit and then falling and then standing up and walking again and falling again. You're not going to come to that child and say, how many times did you fail trying to walk? Are you stupid? You can't even walk, such a simple thing, right? You're not going to do that. And yet so many of us do that to ourselves when we struggle, when we have a difficulty, when we feel down. And so we really have to take responsibility, which is the ability to respond to the way we treat ourselves. And no one else will do that for us. It's really our own duty. And when you understand that you have a child possibly wounded living within you, you want to make sure that you nurture that child, that you take good care of that child. And so I want to recommend you to take a picture, a photo of yourself, whatever age feels right for you, whatever age you feel that you felt maybe lost or not belong or confused or in pain, or you know, a moment in your timeline that you have captured as a photo, and I want you to place it on your altar. If you have an altar, if you not, I invite you to create one. And I want you to start developing relationship with that child. And often when you see the photo, when you actually see that image, it brings that memory, it brings that connection and makes it deeper. And I want you to start cultivating that relationship with your younger self, and seeing that innocence, seeing that purity, seeing that perfect God-made child that you are through that photo. And I'm just going to repeat quickly for Irina. I just said that, you know, we're speaking about the inner child, and I just said that I invite you to take a picture of yourself when you were younger and place it on your altar, so you can have that connection, so you can have that tangible relationship with your inner child. And I really want you to take the next days to cultivate that kindness, that compassion, that unconditional love to this child that you are, that lives inside of you, that still wants to feel accepted and loved unconditionally, with your weak points, with your bad days, with your failures, right? And start talking to that child in a kind, in a gentle, in a compassionate way, as if you were talking to a young child out there or your best friend, right? And it really takes time to cultivate that. You know, what happens is that we get used to a certain way, we get used to a certain relationship with ourselves, and it gets hardwired in our neurological pathways, and it comes automatic without our thinking about it. And so when we want to change that, we have to shine the light of awareness first and foremost, to see what is actually happening, to take inventory of what is going inside. So then from there, we can start making the changes. And the changes are progressive, they can be slow, right? So if you find yourself talking to yourself in a harsh way, then don't beat yourself for doing that again, right? Because that will just perpetuate that cycle of a bad relationship with yourself. So when you find yourself doing that, one of the things that I found really working, it's simple, because all healing things are simple. Nothing is complicated, right? Ever. The healing is simple. When you find yourself talking to yourself in a way that you would not approve talking to your best friend, or your best friend will not approve you talking to her like that, then take a moment, stop there, put your hand on your heart. That is instantly bringing you into compassion, into your body. Take a deep breath and change that. Change it to a more gentle, compassionate response, right? Not reaction, response. And so the more times you do that, right? So again, that brings the awareness, because oftentimes we don't have that awareness. We just going on and on an autopilot. Now I'm inviting you to bring the awareness of how you speak to yourself on a daily basis, on every moment to moment, because we speak to ourselves all the time, right? All the time we have that inner dialogue about decisions we have to make and relationships with other people, and we constantly speak to ourselves. And so we want to bring our inner dialogue to 9, 10. I would even say 10. Okay, we want to be our own cheerleader. We want to be our own greatest support system. We want to be our own best friend. And we can only do that through the inner relationship. So this is the one thing that is really important to cultivate. And oftentimes when you have that picture of the inner child, you actually understand every time you move through that altar, and you see yourself as a young child, or even older child, whatever stage you feel you have not got the support you needed, you are there responsible. You take that responsibility to give yourself that support that you need. So you actually grow your inner child now. You reparenting your inner child by the relationship between your masculine and feminine, by your inner mother and inner father, and how they relate to each other, to make sure that you as a child have all your needs met. And it's all the needs in terms of your survival needs, your need for safety, and then of course your need to feel accepted and loved by yourself, right? By your inner mother and inner father, first and foremost, before you want to feel it from the outside world, from your partner, from your parents or children or other relationships. You can only find it outside of you once you have it inside of you. Once you're self-content, once that inner trilogy, that holy trinity within you is in harmony. And so it comes to self-love, right? And so how do you grow in self-love, right? How do you grow in self-love? I have heard people saying, I know I need to love myself more, but how? So the basis of self-love is self-care. Self-care. Self-care is the foundation on which you grow self-love, because when you take care of yourself, when you do something that feels inspiring, that feels comfortable, that feels nice, that feels nourishing, you are telling yourself, I am important. I am worth it. And just these two things that I've said, I am important, I am worth it, is for many, many, many people a struggle. Many people don't feel worthy enough. They don't feel enough. Many, many, many people. And so when you take care of yourself, it means being attentive to your needs. It means placing boundaries. And boundaries for yourself. So in other words, knowing that, you know, I like to drink coffee, but coffee is not really great for me. I'm just giving a random example. So can I have a negotiation with myself that I maybe just drink 1 cup a day? Or maybe it's so bad for me, maybe I should give it out altogether. Or, you know, regarding any decision, like really being attentive, is this good for me or is this harming me? And so have that boundary for yourself. And then, of course, boundaries with other people. Really being discerning about the people that you enter into your life. Do they worth your time and energy? Do they benefit you? Do they support and inspire you? Do they positive influence on your life? Because if they not, then that's a boundary, right? I mean, think about a young child. If you raising a child for all us Mother's Day and you see a child that, you know, has a friend that is a bad influence on that child, you as a parent want to remove that child from that relationship because this is relationship that will harm the child. So this is what you do as an adult. You really become attentive to the needs of your inner child. At the moment, you feel how the inner child feels in the skin, inside your own skin. Is it feeling cold and maybe needs a jacket? Does it feel hot and maybe needs to jump into cold water? Just an example, right? But being attentive to your needs, putting your needs right up there before anyone else, right? They say that, you know, if you're on a flight and you sit with your child there and the plane goes into emergency mode and you have to put on the oxygen mask, the instructions are you first have to put it on yourself before you even put it on your child, right? We think that logically it would be the other way around, but you can't. If you don't fill your own cup, if you're not attentive to your own needs, you will not be able to provide it in a way that will be overflowing. It will be maybe provided because you feel obligated to, but then that will create resentment. So first of all, your needs. Does it sound selfish? Yeah, you have to be selfish, right? You have to be selfish, not in a way that harms others, but in a way that benefits you, in a way that takes good care of yourself. And so taking good care is also bringing your nervous system from the sympathetic state to a parasympathetic state, right? So what happens is that a lot of us live in so much stress, right? We've got so much going on, so much on our plates. We might be working or even running a business. We might have a family and children to look after, or older parents to look after. And we're busy doing so many things in such a rushed society. And it almost feels like we're in a chase, except many, many years ago, the sympathetic nervous system was activated when we were really in a chase, when there was a cheetah or a lioness running after us. We no more there, but we have so many stressors that if we don't learn how to unwind and unstress, we constantly in that sympathetic nervous system mode. And that is detrimental for our immune system, for our life overall. So how do we take ourselves into the parasympathetic nervous system, where healing happens and rejuvenation happens and relaxation and just um, being in a state of receptivity. There are so many ways, and for everyone it's different, but I will state a few that will work for everyone. And one of them is a walk in nature, right? When you are walking in nature, automatically you breathe deeper, you take in the energy of Mother Earth, the trees or the mountains or the sea. It just opens you up. It automatically brings you into a different mode. Exercise, do the same. I always say that our inner waters, the sweat, the crying, all of that brings us into that mode of relaxation and rejuvenation. And this is super important, because we all know that when we tired, when we burn out, when we overworked, we live in a survival mode. We just want to get through the day as soon as possible and get it over and done with and finish. And right, we in a flight or fight mode when we in that state. Having a bath is another way. Swimming, movement, singing, using your voice. Whatever is your preferred way. Having a massage, even having a conversation with a friend, or cuddling up with your pet, or whatever works for you. There's literally so many ways, it's infinite. But consciously bringing that awareness, I need to unwind, I need some time to rejuvenate, I need to pamper myself, I need to follow my joy, to do things that feel good, right? So if you enjoy dancing, go dance. If you enjoy listening to a certain music, or whatever blow your feathers is good. Is no right or wrong, right? As long as you consciously bring that into your day, not into your week, into your day, on a daily basis. What can you do today that will make you feel good? And so what happens in life is that we never stay stagnant, ever. We constantly either spiraling up into the positive frequency, or we spiraling down into the negative frequency. And it works by creating a momentum. So what happens is that, I even, the other day, my sister was around and she showed me, she's investing in the market, in the crypto market. And she showed me the graphs, and the graphs are always waves. And it's so interesting, because what makes the wave turn, right? It was going down and then it kind of turns up again. And that's, of course, the movements of the market, of people that, buying and selling. But in life, in our day-to-day life, we also have those waves, right? And it's never just stagnant. It's only stagnant when we die, right? Even if you look at your heartbeat, it goes like that, right? That's the movement. And so how do we create that momentum to vibrate up? Because up is, into the lighter frequency, into the positive frequency, is where we have feelings of gratitude and love and joy and happiness and all those yummy states of mind that we all really want to enjoy and be there. It feels good, right? And then spiraling down into the negative is where we find the lower frequencies. And again, it's not good or bad because they're both there, but it's a choice. So in the lower frequencies, we find shame and guilt and jealousy and resentment and anger and rage and all those emotions that we don't like so much, but sometimes spirit brings us right there and we have to deal with it, and we're there. But we can turn the momentum, and we can, by choice, by conscious choice, start a momentum spiraling up. And so how do we do that? It's exactly that in this way. It's bringing conscious little decisions. It's little steps in the beginning. It doesn't take like, a revolutionary act of something, although that can also help. But it's really those little movements in energy that goes up. It's cultivating gratitude. It's cultivating, the energy that makes you feel good in your body, in your skin. It's maybe servicing other people, giving service, helping others, anything that makes you feel good in your body. And the more you build on that small little acts, the more you spiraling up, and you create that momentum that then it gets bigger and bigger, right? Because what is a spiral? It starts, it starts in one place and then it expands. So it starts bringing more and more positivity into your life, and it starts to, just create that wave of positive. And so looking after the inner child, the needs of the child, it starts with your inner dialogue. How do you treat your child? Consciously bringing that awareness into your day-to-day, into your moment-to-moment, and also having that connection, like checking in a couple of times a day. It's almost like anchoring into yourself and checking, what do I need now to support me? What do I need now? And so I want to speak quickly about addictions, because I feel that this is a huge part of something probably most of us dealing with. I know that I've had all the addictions you can name out there, possibly. I mean, really, I had so many addictions growing up, right, that I've cleared. So, addiction is really a way that we're trying to fill an inner hole, an inner craving. Like we have this place where maybe we experience some trauma or challenges, or we, have an unresolved issue, or unprocessed emotions, or emotions of overwhelm. And so we're trying to grab onto something from the outside to momentarily fill that hole, right? It's almost like an hungry ghost that constantly asking for food, and we can never feed it. We can never feed it with addiction. We take some, and then we take more, and then we take more, and then we take more, and then we take more. And it's a vicious cycle that never ends. And so if you have addictions, whatever the addictions are, it doesn't matter, right? It can be, addiction, to drugs and alcohol, which is on the kind of more dangerous scale, or it can be addiction to sleep and screens and whatever it is, right? So that addiction, must remember, comes from the child need to feel whole, right? We're trying to feed that child. And so whatever addiction you are experiencing, what's the first thing you have to do? Is check your inner dialogue, is to be there for the child, not coming down on that child that once again reaches to the refrigerator, to another sweet, or to the cell phone, or whatever is the addiction. It comes in so many ways and expressions, but the essence is always the same. So when you see yourself, right, because you are the witness, and you see your inner child grabs that next fix of addiction, kindness, gentleness, acceptance, support, all of those things that you will do with your best girlfriend. Now, my take on addictions is that you have to fill that hole in an energetic way, right? So no matter, addictions, if you hard on yourself and you're trying to stop that addiction and you have that constant fight, it's really tiring. It's a tug of war. You feel exhausted, you feel defeated, and most likely you will, if you will succeed to end this addiction, you will immediately go to another addiction to replace that one. Am I right? Did you experience that? That you manage, okay, that addiction is very bad for me. I should stop smoking cigarettes. It's ruining my lungs. It's not good for me. And you've got that tug of war, and then you conquer that addiction just to go and do something else, right? So it's not about the addiction. The addiction is just the symptom. It's about the core need to feel whole and feel good in your own skin. So my take on that is always from a place of love. What will love do, right? So how can you process those unprocessed emotions? How can you let yourself cry those cries, right? How can you take such a good care of yourself so you don't have those cravings and such? Like I always say that, if you add to your life more positive things. So say you have an addiction of sugar, right? A big one in our society. And you constantly crave those sugary fixes. And again, you get into that perpetuating cycle of you reach into the fridge, you take in those sweets, you feeling guilty that you did it, coming down on yourself harshly, then you hate yourself, then that's the cycle. So I say, rather than doing that, what love will do? First of all, acceptance, love, gentleness to the child that has a need, right? It's an unfulfilled need that comes in a way of addiction. Start adding things. Maybe add some superfoods into your diet. Maybe add some a green juice or something that will create more balance in your body, that you will need less that craving, right? If you start taking yourself to the gym or moving your body, all of a sudden you feel, wow, I just moved my body. Maybe I'm not going to take that sweet now because I just did something good, right? So that is the spiraling up. When you do a few good things, you want to do more good things for yourself. And it goes the other way around. I found with myself, I found that self-sabotage, if I feel great and I exercise and I do my meditation and I feel great, and all of a sudden I get sick. And then I'm like, how could I get sick now after doing all these great things? And then I self-sabotage myself. I don't take my vitamins. I don't, it happened a few times for me to notice that pattern, how the spiraling down can happen also so quickly. Some few negative things happen, and then more and more are coming on board. So how do you change that? You start spiraling up. You start creating momentum up. You start, and in the beginning, it's always more, you almost need more energy to propel so you can rise, right? Whereas when everything is happening, it takes less of your energy in a way, right? Because you already have that momentum. So, for example, if I start my day with meditation and then I do exercise, I feel so good that I've done that I will carry on, with great nutrition, and I'll take myself to do a cold immersion, which I know is really brilliant for my energy. And there's more momentum, right? So create that momentum for your inner child to blossom, and the real things, right? So see the addictions as the substitutes, right? That at the moment you're reaching out because they hooked you. They they hooked you because when you try them for the first few times, they fulfilled some feelings of joy and um, certain fulfillment. And so you got hooked onto them because they gave you those momentary feelings of elevation in some ways. And so you got hooked, and now you keep on trying to get those initial feelings, but it's never really that, because they can't give it to you. They um that's again, that's not what your core essence needs. So taking good care of yourself is, rather than fighting those addictions and those places that you fight with yourself, is really placing all your energy onto how can you bring into your life more things that will support you, that will fill your real needs of love and acceptance. And that's the work. That's the work of parenting your inner child. And so I just want to give you a moment to ask questions or share shares or have comments, if you have. So I'm just opening the space for that. So if anyone wants to come on board and ask or comment, then this is the right time. Amy, yes.
Aloha. Thank you so much for your generous sharing and your wisdom. I am soaking it in, and I am familiar with so much of what you're saying, and still curious, like, what is the next step to truly, what I call, cut myself some slack? Like, I know these things. I consider myself a queen of self-care, radical self-care on a daily basis. You talked about some of us with our work or our kids or taking care of parents. Like, I have all of the above, and so my self-care has to equally match all of those demands. And yet my inner dialogue, I don't know if it's ever been. I have moments of 7, 8, but that's why I cautiously put, that's what I'm aiming for. But when you said we're going for 9 or 10, it's like deeper than my mind can go to imagine that. It's super stretchy. It quite frankly feels unattainable. So I'm just curious if you have any feedback on that, of how to break to that next level when we've hit a plateau. Because like I said, historically, I was the 3 or 4, tend to average at about a 6, maybe 7, but 9, 10 plus. Wow. What would life look like? What would be available? How do we get there? So that's my question for you, dear.
Right. So here we go. Imagine how life will look like when that's going to be a 10.
Right.
And it's really practice, awareness and practice. So what you have to do is to rewire some very deep wiring in your neurological pathways. In other words, you are used to a certain way to communicate with yourself that you carry maybe since a child. How many years is that, right? These are deep, deep wiring. So how do you rewire? You start something new, and your initial kind of response will be to go back to the familiar. And so you start almost craving, not craving, carving a new a new wiring, a new pathway. And that takes time, because remember, those pathways are very, very deep wired. So for you to
Right.
create new pathways, it's really practicing with awareness, really being like switching on your inner witness into how you speak to yourself constantly. In other words, it was in the dark, it was on autopilot. You are now shining the light, you are bringing it to the light, to the surface, and you look at it for what it is. And when you find yourself going back to the old ways, this is what you do. You place your hand on your heart, you take a deep breath, so that will dewire that moment, and you affirm, you say something positive to change that. And the more you do that, the more natural it will feel like. It is absolutely attainable. From somebody that was speaking to herself, maybe one or two, I went in the years. It's not an overnight, although I also believe in quantum healing. So I don't want to say that it will take you years to, no. For me, it took many years, but I also saw a lot of quick shifts. So I'm just want to put it out there to leave it open for you to, because once you bring the light of your awareness and you catch yourself, and you don't now start, as I said, start coming down on you for coming down on you, right? Because then
that's where I get caught. That's right where I get caught.
Yeah. Exactly, because that's where you perpetuate in the whole cycle. You're not bringing it into a resolve, right? You actually putting more wood into the fire.
Right. 100%.
And so that's exactly how you break that, is that, you do something that is a moment breaker, or a shifter, a moment shifter, right? And it's so important. I mean, I said that, take it really, into heart. I mean, the hand on the heart has such a big, it's like your tool. It's your tool, because the moment you do that, you understand, okay, I just had the awareness that I spoke to myself in a way that puts me down, that does not elevate or support me. You take that deep breath and you say, I am doing the best I can. And maybe even have some affirmations ready, so you can quickly take them out when you need. I am a perfect imperfection. I am only human. I can only do the best I can from where I am with what I have. I am allowed to do mistakes. I have done a mistake, and I am sorry, and that's okay. And I love and accept myself with that mistake, or whatever you can tell yourself, and really have that image of what would you tell your best friend, because you would, if you see your best friend struggling, she's going through whatever emotional, she's breaking up with a boyfriend, a child is sick, whatever she goes through, life events, and she comes to you and you drink tea and she cries and she says, Amy, I'm feeling that. And you're not going to say to her, how dare you do that? How, like, again? You're not going to talk to her like that. You're going to give her all the love and support that you can, right? So this is your job, is to turn it inside. How can you give yourself that love and support? And then again, remember that many of the voices that are so wired are not your voices. You adopted them from an adult. So they not only autopilot, they are so ingrained in your being. So you want to change them. You want to let them go. They're not serving you. They're not your voices. You don't need that anymore, right? You took it on because you were an innocent child that were like sponge. So the way you've been treated, most of the time, or even sometimes we can, I mean, I had, my stepmother told me that I can't sing. And I took that in for 30 years. I have never opened my mouth to sing, and then I went to a singing circle and we were singing and I thought, wow, this brings me so much joy. I can, and it was a process. It was not in one day. I had to break that. But, she just said it. I mean, she didn't have to say it every day. She said it just, 1 or 2 times. And that was enough to shut me down. And every time somebody will say, that's your turn to sing a song. I was sitting in a lot of medicine circles and I was like, oh, no, I can't sing. And then they look at me and say, but everyone can sing. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I can't sing. Right? So sometimes it's not even, an everyday kind of dialogue. It's enough once or twice. And that's now you took that on and that's the voice you speak to yourself. So you really, that's why it's the work of undoing rather than doing as such. You just want to clear all those voices, all those limiting beliefs, all those ways that you treat yourself in a criticizing, judging, down-looking way. And once you clear that, then you stay with your essence, which is love and compassion and forgiveness and right? That's your essence. So practice. That's my answer.
Thank you. Thank you. My biggest takeaway today is when you said all healing is simple, because even as you're talking, I'm thinking of all the ways I can make it more complicated, but to just let it be easy, let it be simple. And then I was so tickled when you said, whatever blows your feathers. I've never heard that before. So thank you for a new phrase. I imagine that to be whatever sparks joy, whatever lights you up, whatever blows your feathers. So thank you, dear. That was great. My inner child loves that one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then remember, probably the most important thing that I have not said yet. Remember to be playful.
Right.
Playful, because that's all children are playful, right? That is the essence of being a child. And sometimes we just get too serious. And life is such a short journey in this body, on this plane. And when it takes things so serious and so, being adults, we forget to bring that spark of joy to the inner child. And then the inner child gets really, it kind of loses life. And so the best way to connect to your inner child is through playfulness.
Yep. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Anyone else?
Can I say something on that same vein? I was just like, when you said you wouldn't speak to yourself like you speak to your friends or whatever, what I was envisioning was when I was riding my bike this morning and I was looking in the mirror and I was like, dang, your thighs are fat. Like I was like telling myself that, and I'm just like, but you're exercising. So then there's that positive, but you're exercising, so it'll go away. Just give it time. I'll look in that mirror and be like, oh wow, that's muscle, that looks good. And that was the conversation I was having 3 hours ago with myself, but I'm thinking, is it negative that I looked and I said, oh wow, your thighs are a little bit big, that's not putting me down. That's just saying, like, keep exercising. I could say, but I love and accept your body the way that it is, like the way you are right now, you're truly beautiful. And I love and accept you the way you are. Keep exercising. And that's going to tone up and it's going to just make you feel like proud of yourself, right? That would be a nice dialogue, rather than the dialogue that I did have was more, I remember looking in there and thinking, dang, that cellulite is kind of flabby and and I was just looking at myself in an ugly kind of way. So that's where I was like, I'm not a 10. It's hard. And I'm thinking, I can still look at myself that way, but I need to reframe it and say, like, yes, I noticed that looking at yourself in that dark, not dark, but in a critical way. And I can change it and say like, this is who you are right now. Yeah, I think that's what it is. That's where I was like, sorry, I'm talking myself through my own question. So
I
my
see you
question
asked
was,
and you answered, and your answer
I
is
asked and
great.
answered. I know. I'm like,
Yeah.
sorry. So I was just thinking like, I would want my friend to be honest with me and say like, oh yeah, those jeans are a little bit tight. Like you might want to take off 10 and then that way they'll fit a little bit better. But it looks like you're struggling to get in there. Like I would want my friend to be honest with me, even though that's kind of mean because it's like, so like there's that fine line of like, look at yourself and be like, get in those pants, girl. You look good, even though it's a little bit tight, but it's not true, you know? So there's that piece where I'm like, do I lie to myself or do I just say like, no, like the zipper is tight and like, you might want to cut back on some chocolate at night, but I still love it. I guess if you give yourself those moments of like, oh girl, it's getting a little tight around the waist, you know, instead of like going down that dark path, I could say, okay, so turn it around, sweetheart. Like let's think about how many pieces of chocolate you have at night. You're allowed chocolate because you like it, and I'm not going to deprive you of that, but try to keep it to one or two, you know, like the reframe part of it. You can still have that honesty and clarity with yourself, but then the reframe of like, you're doing the best you can right now, and what can you do to improve, right?
Exactly. And thank you for bringing it up because it's a very, very important point. You do want to be honest with yourself. It's not about suppression. It's not about lying to yourself. It's not about putting folders on reality. No, none of that. It's about being your cheerleader, right? It's about being your mentor, your coach, your loving parent. And a loving parent sometimes needs to be fierce and put a boundary and say, listen, girl, you're you know, in this example, you know, you putting on weight, cut on chocolates. That's a great example, but doing it in a kind way, doing it in a supportive way, doing it sometimes in a fierce way. If you need to take the chocolates and put them from the fridge to, you know, not buy them, whatever works for you, do it by all means, because we do want to grow. We do want to feel good in our body. We want to feel vital. We want to feel beautiful. We want to feel at our best, of course. And sometimes, not sometimes, always, to have that, you have to make choices along the way. And you know, it's almost like being able to see yourself maybe doing something you're not proud of, right? You had a burst of anger and you just shouted at this lady at the till, right? And you're coming back home and you're like, how could I do that? How could I behave like that? And then no, that was out of maybe of integrity, or I was too, you know, emotionally, already angry from something before, or you know, something else happening in my life that makes me agitated, or whatever the case may be, right? You can find the reasons why it happened, but nevertheless it happened in a way that you maybe not feel proud, and that's okay. But still giving yourself that, okay, that was not cool, so maybe I should release my anger in a different way, because obviously now it rubs upon others. Maybe I should, you know, so you do that check-in with yourself all the time, but as you will do with a good friend, as you will be the cheerleader, the inspiring, the wise person that you all are, we all are, you know, get that crown energy on board, and you know, what is the right the best advice I can give myself in this situation. And it's being able to see yourself through your down moments, through your you know, places where you maybe don't feel proud or don't want to own, but they're there, and accept them for what they are. Love yourself through all of it, and then together navigate a way to change the situation so it's different.
I was going to also tell you, like, my mom told me, you can't sing. You can't, you're so flat. You can't sing. So I'm always like nervous to sing. So like when you said that, I'm just like, yeah, I know that feeling. It's like, and then people, I've had not just my mom, I've had numerous people say like, ooh, sing a little bit quieter. Like you're not really in key. And then I'm feeling like I should take sing lessons so that I can really learn how to do it, you know, because I love singing. I love singing, and it feels so, like when you're doing kirtan and nobody cares what you're doing, but it's just so free and it feels so good. And so I signed up for a singing class tonight.
There you go.
It's virtual, but I'm just like, I'm gonna sing and close my door if my mom wants to come in here and be like, oh boy. That's fine. That's her problem. I'm gonna enjoy it.
And that's the joy of the inner child, right? Because all children sing. All children sing. And by the
Yeah.
way, I had, a conversation with a good friend of mine. She's a very conscious woman. And she said that she had this, 3-4-year-old singing in the car so badly, so out of tune every single day, the way to school and the way back. And she said she had to persevere listening to that because she did not want to interrupt her. Today, her daughter is a singer, writes music, plays music. This is her journey. This is her destiny. Now imagine what would happen if her mother would tell her, you're out of tune, stop singing. Her destiny will be directed in a different way. She wouldn't be her authentic, And she said, I literally had to persevere myself because for me, it was just hurting my ears. But I didn't stop that. And I'm so grateful that I didn't, because at one point it's just changed and she was on tune. So we all start, we can start off tune. Some are just gifted to start on tune, but some don't. And they slowly, by practicing, by engaging, by experiencing that joy, bring it back, getting on tune. So, and some don't, and it's also fine, because singing is playful, joyful experience. You don't have to be a singer to sing. You don't have to be a dancer to dance.
Yeah. Thank you for all these reminders.
So I'm just reading in the chat. You just tell yourself life is sweet and focus on gratitude or something instead of eating it. So I assume you're talking about addiction to eating, or, there's many ways that you can overcome this kind of addiction. And I was mentioning adding into your diet things that will naturally bring nutrients to your body in such a way that it will feed it, that less craving is there. Like I found that when I eat really balanced food, I have less craving already. And then really, it's a daily work. There's so many ways, one has to come to the core of why that addiction is there. What are we trying to fill in with that addiction, and start unpacking the past and what causing that in the first place. So yeah, it's a process. And yeah, I haven't gone very deep into that with the time we have. So yeah, I see yes. And I think through the eating of chocolates, I'm a sugar addict and it hijacks my well-being. Life is sweet. I'm grateful for so much. So I go there with my attention. Yeah, great. And attention is important. It's where attention is energy in focus. So, you just by having intention. Attention is where intention is where your attention goes, right? So just by having an intention that, I am taking great care of myself in a way that is aligned with my well-being, or anything like that, that you really start placing that energy there, it's already in motion. When you're ready, the teacher comes, so it's already starting that momentum. yeah, and then thank you and thank you and thank you. I have gone a little bit over time, but yeah, that's from my side. Lots of love, and I'll see you next time when we're gonna be speaking about the mind. That's a big one. And then I really, really, really ask you if you can place reviews on my book. I know, Amy, you did, and I really am grateful for that. Thank you so much. It really helps to get the book out there to more people, and so many people are in need of this knowledge. So I really thank you for it.
Where do we review the book? Can you put the link here so that we can just click on it and review it?
I'm
Because I
bringing
think
the link right
feel
now.
like I feel like I already reviewed it, but maybe I didn't.
I can't remember exactly, but yeah, it's
Or
just
maybe
a
you
matter
emailed it.
of really a second that you
I
go
don't
on.
mind doing it. Just give me the link. Give me like something I click on and go to. Because if I had to look for
know.
where I was going to write a review, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I know that. I'm very well aware of that.
Did you buy it on Amazon, Shelley?
Yeah,
I can't remember.
yeah.
It's right there. I think your review is there. I think I may
Oh,
have seen it.
okay. I feel like I've written a review, but I've written a lot of reviews recently to different books that I'm reading. So
Oh, Jackie just put it in there.
Oh,
Thanks,
thank you,
Jackie.
Jackie.
Okay.
Thank you. I can't get into Facebook. It's Murphy's Law. Yeah, so thank you so much, and lots of love, and keep well, and yeah, work on your inner dialogue. That's really key. It's a key. It's a key, because once you establish great relationship with yourself, from there, imagine how life will be, right? Yeah. Thank you so much, and blessings your way. Lots of love. Bye.